I often discourage people from getting sheep on their homestead. But who should get sheep? Are sheep right for anybody, or should nobody get sheep? How can a homesteader plan for retirement? Should they be investing? Can they have a 401k? Should they have a 401k if they're just living off the land? Is that even possible? And do I often get confused as Burt Reynolds? Yes I do. Walking out of the podcast video studio there. Oh, I'm realizing how long that was. And I think what I'm going to do is cut this one into 2 parts and make it an A and a B and release it on Friday and Saturday. So, if you just enjoyed part A, stay tuned for part B tomorrow. Maybe getting these a little bit shorter by breaking them into 2 videos will help everybody. Or maybe nobody, we'll see. Sierra wants to know, our video where we lost our rooster Fluffyfoot. She says she gets sick to her stomach when she deals with dead animals. She's okay once her husband takes the head off and the skin. At that point, she can deal with it. But do any of our kids or Kay struggle with it? She wants to raise her own meat, but she's having a hard time with the dead animal there hanging, looking at her. Does it get better with time? Or are some people just not cut out for farm life? Sierra, this is one of the things that I think we today have the I guess you could say privilege of not having to deal with dead animals all the time. Whereas a couple hundred years ago, everybody was dealing with more dead animals. Like, not 100% of the people, but a lot more people. Just, it was part of their everyday life. Nowadays, we live in this world where people are like, oh, I couldn't do that. I couldn't kill an animal to eat. Yes, you could. If you were starving, you would kill it with a blunt knife. If you were starving, you would kill it with your teeth. You would definitely kill an animal if you were starving. Now, you personally, Sarah, you say you want to do meat, but you're not sure, you're just not cut out for it. No, you're definitely cut out for it. It will get better over time. Dealing with, the first time you deal with a dead animal, you already can handle getting the guts out and cleaning it once your husband cuts the head off and the skin off. So that's pretty good. If the best you can do is your husband kills him and takes off the skin and you take over the rest, sounds like a good team to me, as long as your husband enjoys it and he wants to be involved in it. I know with butcher days, a lot of times one guy does the cutting of the chickens, another guy does the plucking, a third guy does the evisceration. Honestly, I don't like doing the evisceration compared to the cutting. I'll cut or pluck before I'll eviscerate. I do it all, but like if I had to pick, I'd have you over and you can do all the gutting and I'll do all the... It's hard for me to fit my hand in to gut anyway. So I think you could get better over time if you're already okay with the gutting, the cleaning, as long as you have the teamwork of your husband. That kind of thing with more exposure, yes, I do believe you would get better. People who have extreme phobias can get over them through exposure in the proper setting. Now, here's the thing. You asked, do my kids have that problem? I've not yet seen any of my kids have any kind of real problem with dead things. But I would not, to fix that, force exposure. Be like, toughen up, deal with it. You know, you're being a wuss, deal with the dead thing. Come on, Sierra, grab the knife, cut its throat. That's not the way to do it. That's not how they handle getting people over phobias with exposure. It's exposure in the right settings, building your confidence, that sort of thing. So if your husband's cool with doing the first part and you're good at gutting and cleaning, maybe start adding in one extra piece of that. You don't want to cut the chicken's throat, but you think you can pluck it? Well, go for it. I've seen this. We used to do a chicken butcher class, and my mom came to do it one day, and she couldn't do it. She stood there, and she was like, oh, and she watched it happen. She could not do it. So I killed her chicken. The rest of the way, I think she did most of it. I don't know if she plucked, but maybe she did the gutting. Anyway, fast forward now a couple of years. I took my mom this year out bird hunting. Given cutting a chicken's throat while it's in a killing cone versus shooting a pheasant flying by you at 30 miles an hour are two different things. But it's steps in that direction. Over time, she's gotten more used to the idea, more exposure, being around me and my table full of dead animals. So keep working at it, Sierra. If you want to raise your own meat, you can totally do it. Just keep working forward, slow and steady. Feel good about where you've gotten so far, and keep pushing yourself, pushing that comfort zone a little bit each time. Help your husband out. Make it a goal. Okay, this time I'm going to just do one of the chickens myself, and then next time, okay, I'm going to do 2 of the chickens next time. And find where you're good at, find that spot. Speaking of dead chickens, Elizabeth wanted to know, Fluffyfoot's dead. Can you eat him now? Will you butcher him? Under what conditions can you eat a dead animal, presuming you know how the animal has died? Elizabeth, this is one of those things where I always like to be more safe than sorry when it comes to consuming dead things. I have to know a lot about the dead animal before I'm going to feed it to my family. That's why I do, it's like Sierra was talking about, that's why I've become comfortable with killing and butchering most of the animals my family eats. The first time I ever killed an animal on my farm, it was not easy. I didn't love it. It was hard. It's still not my favorite day of the year. It's still hard, but you get better at it. I do that so that I know, like, that animal died and 10 minutes later it was chilled and clean, and an hour later it was wrapped and in the freezer. I want to know that. And when I come and find a chicken like Fluffyfoot in a stock tank, no, I'm not going to save that animal and eat it. For multiple reasons. He died we could all assume, like, yeah, he drowned. That's how he died, right? So why not put him to good use? I don't really know how long he was in that stock tank. When he died, that stock tank can hold a lot of water, so we can fill it one day and not have to worry about it for a couple days. He could have been in there for 3 days. While it is cold, it's winter time, during the day the temperatures rise. We have that stock tank water heated, so the water is already above 32 degrees. It's somewhere closer to 40, and on a warm day, could that tank get to 50? Now we're worried about microbiology growth, all kinds of nasty organisms. Chickens are always covered in poop, and chicken poop has all kinds of nasty stuff. In warm water, that is going to multiply like crazy. It's going to be all over that chicken. If I knew, I remember I saw Fluffyfoot an hour ago and now he's in the thing, well, bacteria-wise, that would be safer. But I'm still not going to do it. When I kill an animal, I want to bleed that animal clean. I want to get all the blood out of that animal. An animal that's drowned to death is going to have all the blood coagulated. If you have meat that hasn't been thoroughly bled, you'll see in the veins coagulated blood. It's usually black. I don't want to eat that. So that's another reason I'm not going to do that. And then as far as just in general, any other animals that I find, if I know how they died, if I don't know, if I just find a dead, stiff animal, there could be some sickness issues. Could have got into something like a rat poison or mouse poison. We don't have any that I know about on the property, but animals range and find weird things and freak accidents happen. So unless I've killed an animal, then there is a very, very low percentage I am going to feed that animal to my family if I just find that animal dead. I'm trying to think of any example that I would consider it, and I don't think I can think of an example, Elizabeth, where I would find a dead animal that I hadn't killed myself. Oh no, I got one. No, that's not even one. We had a chicken get attacked by a hawk, and I came upon the chicken and it was still alive, but it was dying. Heart still beating. I cut its throat, it bled out, and then we ate it. So that'll pass for me, but if it's already dead, if it, And even then, with wild animal attacks, it could be a coyote attacked it. Maybe the coyote's got rabies. I don't know. There's just so many things that are just like, you know, if I don't know most of the stuff about this, I'm not going there. So maybe some people are like, oh, that's such a waste. The animal died. You should eat it. Things die all the time, and nature takes care of it. Wild animals need to eat too. Raccoons, possums, coyotes, they all need to eat. So if Fluffyfoot died, he can get tossed far away in the woods somewhere. And other animals, circle of life, Mufasa to Simba, it's all good. I don't want to eat a dead animal that I don't know where it's been. Corey wants to know, thank you. Corey is a Homesteady pioneer, and he shops through our Amazon, Homesteady and the Amazon links, and he wondered, how do we make profit from Amazon purchases? Is it a percentage of the total purchase, or is it an amount per transaction? Thanks, I really enjoy your perspective about animal care and the use of medicines or vaccines when wise. So first off, Corey, Homesteady pioneer and Homesteady supporter, like, we cannot do this show. I say this a lot, but YouTube does not pay enough for us to full-time produce these videos. That's what we do now, full-time, make videos. And we can only do that with people like Corey, who are $5 a month pioneer and shopping through Amazon. Doesn't cost them an extra penny on Amazon. How do we get paid? So thank you, Corey. Thank you to anyone who does any of that stuff. We can't do it without you guys. You're the only way we've been able to do this. So when you shop through our Amazon link, there's a link below. You just click on it. It forwards you to Amazon. A lot of times at the end of our videos, an Amazon link will pop up. You can type in homsteady.com, and that will forward you to Amazon. The way it works is all your purchases that are eligible purchases, I make some percentage off. And that depends on a few different things. So first off, eligible. Eligible means I don't know you, like you're not my mom or dad or best friend, and you make a purchase because you want to just support our show, and that purchase you make through one of our links. You click on the link, over to Amazon, you click on the thing you want to buy, boom, you're out of there. We get a percentage. Different percentage depending on what you bought. Electronics versus an Amazon Prime membership versus an ebook versus cleaning solution versus one of those Amazon products. All different percentage. I can sell a $500 item and make 50 cents. I can sell a $500 item, and make like 40 bucks. So it's all over the place, but it is a huge help. Amazon Homesteady purchases have become about a quarter of my yearly earnings. My yearly, I don't know if you want to call it a salary. It's not a salary because it's the earnings my business makes. So our gross profit for the year, Amazon is approaching about a quarter of that, Homesteady purchases. And the amount of like, hey, buy this thing, here's the direct link, versus just you who are out there typing in Homesteady or clicking on the link in our videos. I haven't looked at it like exactly, but I can tell you off the top of my head, it's like 1 out of every 10 purchases, maybe 1 out of every 50 is something I say, hey, buy this, link below, versus most of it is those of you who remember, I'm typing in Amazon, AM Steady instead of Amazon, helps us, put food on the table, buy camera equipment, computers, excuse me, that computer that you can't see, this computer, editing software, all the expenses associated with video production, and just being able to take my time. That's how we're able to do it. Thank you so much, Corey, and all you who support us that way. And if you haven't yet, try Homesteady today. Type in homsteady.com, click on the link below. Great way to support the show. It does not cost you anything more. The only people who lose money are Amazon. They lose a little money because they give it to us, but they're happy because you're shopping at Amazon. So it's a win-win-win. 2 more questions, both about money. And I like talking about money because, I don't know, I just like talking about money. Lauren says, living with no debt is fantastic. In our video where we showed you we bought a car with cash, we didn't want to have a loan, we live debt free. She says, I'm just wondering though, have you thought about using a credit card and paying it every month to preserve your credit score? And this inspired a little bit of discussion. We are big fans when it comes to getting out of debt. We kind of follow the Dave Ramsey method of getting out of debt. Basically, what Dave Ramsey tells you to do is take all your debts, start with the smallest one, pay that first, apply that money aggressively that you did on the small debts to the bigger debts, pay those off, and then never get into debt again. Cut up your credit cards, put them in the garbage, and never ever get a loan again for anything. We are totally anti-debt, me and Kay. Most of our life, fortunately, we were already not big into debt. But there are some forms of debt that people consider acceptable debt. And for a while, we kind of were into that, like acceptable debt. Like we weren't going to take out a loan for a television, you know, to buy a new TV or something. But when I bought my first car, I took out a loan for this exact reason that Lauren wants to, you know, have a credit card so I could build my credit score. And this is one of those funny things that when you step back and you think about it, you realize how many people in society have been trained to be in debt. And it can, hopefully, it should scare, I think it should scare you. And I don't think it will, and a lot of you might disagree with me on this, but let's dive into this one. Lauren, first off, Lauren says living with no debt is fantastic. So Lauren's like, yeah, no debt, I love it. But, you know, you got to maintain that credit score. People will say that to you all the time. Well, you need to have a good credit score. What are you going to do to have a good credit score? So I got a question for you, viewer. When did you last practice shooting your bow and arrow? You practice this month, right? Because you got to practice that bow and arrow every month. If you're going to hunt with a bow and arrow, you better be practicing every month. And a couple of you were like, oh yeah, I shot this week. It's good, Ost, because you're bow hunters. And like 9 out of 10 of you just said, Ost, I don't bow hunt. Like, I don't need to shoot a bow. I don't need to practice a bow. But if you're going to shoot an animal, it would be wrong not to practice with your bow and arrow if you're going to shoot them with a bow and arrow. And you're like, Ost, I'm not into bow hunting. I know you do it. It's cool. I see those videos. I don't watch your videos about bow hunting. It's just not my lifestyle. I don't want to bow hunt. And that's the point. Living with no debt is a lifestyle decision. And when you choose to live with no debt, you don't want a credit score. It's not, you're never going to go into debt again for anything. You're just not going to do it because debt, a mortgage is the grip of debt, of death. That's what mortgage means. It's slavery. It's you now are in the debt of this person and you have to service that. And most of the time, that means you got to give back what you borrowed plus so much more. And I don't want to live that way. I don't want to give anybody more money back than what I've borrowed. And so if you choose to be a bow hunter, well, you have to practice shooting a bow and arrow. But if you choose not to, that's not your lifestyle, then you don't need that. You don't need to practice shooting a bow and arrow. It's okay. I don't need a credit score. I don't need to maintain a credit score. A credit score is a score that is solely based on how good you are at getting debt and then paying them back more than what they've paid you. And some of you are thinking like, wait, I can have a credit card, I can run up a couple $100 on that credit card and then pay it right back the same month once I get my paycheck and I never get hit with a fee. And that's probably true for some of you, but like one time you forgot and like it went over a month and you got a little bit of a fee or something. Like that's how credit cards companies make their money, when you don't pay them back right away and then you have to pay them back more. And I'm not interested in any more debt. I'm not going back into debt for anything. So us personally, our lifestyle choices, no more debt. So what do I need a credit score for? A credit score, you got a really good credit score, it means you've borrowed a ton of money and paid probably way more than that back. So if you want to have a really good credit score, I don't want a score that says like I'm really good at borrowing money and then paying a lot of that back. It's not something I'm interested in. Now, you can totally disagree with me. That's fine. I'm not trying to offend anybody. If you think you need a good credit score, maybe you're planning on getting a loan for a house. Maybe you're planning on getting a loan for a car. I, at one time, was totally on board with that. While avoiding other kinds of debt, I got a loan for a car. My very first car. The Nissan NV that's out there, we had a loan for. So like up until a couple years ago, we had a loan on our first house. Loan. Those are acceptable forms of debt. And some of you would argue with good reason, there are times where it actually makes more sense to take that loan financially. For example, if you can buy a house, there's people who do this for a business. They buy a house, they get a loan on it. They, with other people's money, that loan, now own that house. They flip it real quick. They sell it for more. They make money. They didn't have to put the money out themselves. So those people would argue with me right now and say like, dude, I'm making money with this loan. Like, how can you argue with that? I don't need to convince you that your way of life is wrong. I know for my way of life, I don't want to be in debt to anybody anymore. Debt-free is the life for me, so I don't need a credit score. What about, you know, there's a saying that I really like. You can have anything, but you can't have everything. So if you choose the lifestyle of debt-free, never owing anybody, right? That's a lifestyle choice. It will change how you do certain things. Would I prefer that Suburban in my garage to be a new one? Yeah, I would love a new Suburban versus one that is 139,000 miles on it. But I can't have everything. So I can't have no debt and a brand new car. I can have a car that's fine and no debt. So you can't have everything, but you can't have anything. Anything you want, you can choose, that's what I want, and work towards it, right? So if I want a new Suburban, well, right now I'll buy an old one that'll maintain a lot of its value, because once the car is old enough, it kind of holds the value. And I can save now because I have no debt. So whatever you spend every month on a house payment and a car payment and payments for the things you put on your credit card and student loans, imagine if you got rid of all that debt, all that money could go into savings every month. Because you don't get debt free and then say like, okay, now I paid off all that stuff. Every month I was paying $1,000 to debt. Now I'm gonna go spend $1,000 on pizza parties. It's such like a third grade thing to spend money on. I'm thinking of like Richie Rich and like, what would Richie Rich have spent money on? Pizza parties and bounce houses. Richie Rich. The point is, like, you take that money you've been putting towards debt and then you put it in your savings. Money was into debt, now it's at savings. So now you're saving that much money. And if you take out the cost of all that debt, the payments I had on the cars I owned and just all that stuff, now it can go into savings. It won't take you very long to put aside the money for a new car. I mean, if you imagine what a car payment is, if you spend $200 a month on a car payment, 10 months you have $2,000, you know. Yeah, you need more than that to buy a car, but you get the idea. You take the money you're servicing debt with, you pay off your debt, and now you can put that into savings. So you want a new car, you can save for it. What about launching a business, right? I launched a business. When I launched this business, I was using a credit card a lot. That was part of the debt I paid off once my media business kind of took off. I bought new computers and cameras and all kinds of stuff, and I was usually good about paying that off quick, but I did use credit cards to do that. Nowadays, anything I need for the business, I either bootstrap, right? All right, I need a new computer. Well, I'm going to need to make more money to cover that computer. Or you can partner up. Businesses every day say, you know what? We want to launch this thing. We don't have enough money for it. Let's partner with someone who does. Now they are a partner in the business. We don't owe them. They are a member. They get equity in the business. And together as a team, we can make things happen. They bring money. We bring expertise. Whatever it is. Not telling you how to run your business. Just saying that's an option. Not going into debt. You partner up. Find yourself a business partner. Emergencies, right? Gotta have a credit card for emergencies. No, you don't. You can have an emergency fund for emergencies. And that is something, the minute we were done paying off debt, the next thing we did was emergency fund. What should you have for an emergency fund? Dave Ramsey actually says before you even pay off your debts, to start your emergency fund of $1,000. Because most emergencies that you're going to experience are going to cost you less than $1,000, and the really big ones you can't save for right away. So if you have a $20,000 emergency, well, if you're still in debt, you're not going to be able to put aside $20,000, so why worry about it? Emergency fund, start with $1,000. Get yourself an emergency fund. Once you have that, then the debt gets paid off. And then back to the emergency fund, turn that $1,000 into a 1 month, take away your salary, whatever you earn for the month. Imagine it disappears, put that in the bank. Liquid cash that you can get now. Have that liquid cash. Don't turn it into a CD. We'll get to investing in a minute. But anyway, liquid cash, emergency fund, 1 month. Turn that 1 month into 2 months. Make it a goal, 6 months. Here's why. You lose your job. Tomorrow, sorry, you're not needed anymore. Oh man. You have no emergency fund? The next day you're like stressed out and you're running to other possible places to work that you probably don't want to work at, but you're like, you need something. We got no money. You have 6 months of an emergency fund to live off of? You lose your job? Okay. I always wanted to start a business. Maybe now's the time to start that business. I have 6 months emergency fund to live off of. If it doesn't work by 3 months from now, I can go find a job in 3 months. Or, you know what? I'm going to take a month off, recalculate, see what I want to do, and then I'll find a job. I got 5 months worth. We cut back our expenses. We know we don't have money coming in right now. Let's stop eating out, at restaurants and things. You already paid off all your debt. You're going to be able to stop eating at restaurants. You're going to have that skill. Or whatever else you spend your money on, your extra money. So, yeah, 6 month emergency fund, liquid cash, right? And then emergencies, other than that, you just need a little bit of, you need insurance, right? Past 6 months emergency, at that point, that's where insurance kicks in. Medical insurance, all the other stuff, so. Excuse me. Finally, sorry. A house. That's the big one. How can you do a house without a loan? And when we bought our first house, we had a loan. So, again, there are more acceptable forms of debt that if you choose, if you're following the Dave Ramsey method, it's like no debt ever. And that's kind of the way we are now. But if you're like, you know what, I want to steer clear of debt, but you have a house loan, even Dave Ramsey says like, well, if you want to have a loan, do a 15-year fixed mortgage. So, there are more acceptable forms of debt, but people do get house loans without a credit score. And that's what we were talking about in this question. You need a credit score, right? You need a credit score for this or that, for a new car, so a house, right? Don't you need a credit score for a house? Well, no. There are companies that have manual underwriters who can look at you, your income, your lifestyle, and they can do the hard work. It's not a quick rocket mortgage, but they can look at you, manual underwriters. And the one Dave Ramsey always talks about is Churchill Mortgage. I'm not endorsing them. I've never used them. I'm not telling you to. I'm just saying they exist. So you don't need a credit score. If you never plan on shooting a deer with a bow and arrow, you don't need to practice shooting a bow and arrow. If you never plan on going into debt again, you don't need a credit score. It's just a score that shows how good you are at servicing debt. And if you don't want to be really good at being somebody else's slave, I don't want to. Choose a lifestyle of debt-free. Forget about the credit score. Forget about all that other stuff. If you want to take a loan out for your house, you don't need a credit score to do it. You can go the route of finding somebody who can look at you, look at your earnings, look at your revenue, your lifestyle, and say, yes, we're confident in you, manual underwriting, boom, they can give you a mortgage. And if people are trying to argue with you about the debts, the credit score thing and the debt, people are going to comment on this one. Okay, whatever. I'm debt-free. You will not convince me to open up another credit card. So save your breath. And if I'm not convincing you, that's fine too. Like it's a lifestyle choice. We've chosen a no debt lifestyle. And I really think you would enjoy that too. but it's not for everybody. One more question about finances. This question was just so good with what we were just talking about. E. Rankin was wondering, anyone who is homesteading, I've watched a lot of YouTube videos, listened to the podcasts, I have a burning question. What about retirement? 401k, investments? I'm sorry if this is a stupid question, but I've always been wondering. You're living my wildest dream and I'm shooting for a homesteading life. Thank you. So, E. Rankin, first off, this is a wonderful life, but it doesn't have to be a dream. You can totally get here. This is a 10-year journey that me and Kay have wound up here. And, there are some things that have been done, like we inherited here a family farm that we would never wind up on this family farm living a debt-free life the way we were previously. But we had a nice 10-acre farm. And so maybe this exact thing here is a wild dream, but you can totally lead a homesteading life. You can do it. I built this business I have from zero, just staying up late and working hard. Nobody paved the way for us for the YouTube channel, the making a living from the homesteading thing. All that stuff is just hard work. You can do it. So keep it up, man. You're wondering about retirement. So 401k investments, right? Everybody who has a job, oh, do they have a 401k? Oh, I've never had a 401k my whole life. And that's fine, because a 401k, while if your job will match that, what you put into the 401k, well, that's cool, because you put the money in and then they put the money in. But if not, you don't need a 401k to have a retirement. There are way more solutions, arguably better solutions. But before we even talk about that, let's focus on one thing. When it comes to finances, Dave Ramsey got us out of debt. But I also don't think anybody has all the answers. I don't look to Dave Ramsey for all my financial advice. He got us out of debt. Love that. We got us out of debt. He had some good advice that we followed. When it comes to investing, I like a lot of the advice that I follow comes from John Puglano from the investablewealth.com. He has what's called the Wealthsteading podcast. He's got a YouTube channel. I've interviewed John before. Really smart guy, super in touch with preppers and homesteaders living off the land. But he has some really good core wealth building principles. And he talks about the way to wealth, and what he considers wealth is really freedom. The freedom to do what you want. And a lot of that is money, but not all of that. I mean, if you have a lot of money, you can do what you want, but it's also how you build your lifestyle, sustainability. I really like John's stuff because it's really on point with our homesteading way of life. So check out investablewealth.com and the Wealthsteading podcast too, and the Wealthsteading podcast channel on YouTube. John's kind of 3 steps to building wealth are apprenticeship, business model, and investment income. Apprenticeship, and this is based off of what he calls the millionaire next door. The guy that you live near who, when you meet him in the supermarket, he's just your average. He doesn't look fancy. He's not driving a Porsche, and he's not wearing an Armani suit. Nice 80s wealthy reference, Ost. But because you know who he is, that guy's got a ton of money. He is the millionaire next door. How do you become the millionaire next door? Apprenticeship, business model, investment income. Apprenticeship, spending time learning how to acquire a marketable skill. This can be anything from making videos, that was my apprenticeship that got me here, to making baked goods, being a baker, right? Being a plumber. And this is so different from the story you get in high school, which is the 3-step of John is apprenticeship, business model, investment income. What you hear from high school is get good grades on your test, get into a good college, get a great job, get rich. Doesn't work like that. I know so many people who got good grades, who went into debt to go to college, who now work at a job they didn't need the degree that they're paying off. They're not getting paid what they were hoping to from the job they're trying to pay off their debt with, and now they're in debt, and I'm not, and they went to college, I didn't, You get the idea here. So the people, the millionaire next door, apprenticeship. Usually you get paid to learn those skills. You can go work at a bakery, learn to be a baker, and make money doing it, instead of going to a liberal arts college where you pay them a ton of money and go into debt probably to leave with no marketable skills, arguably, okay? I know that made some people mad, but that's the truth. And it's not picked on liberal arts college, but there's a ton of people who go for their business, majors, and just like all kinds of people spend all kinds of money on a college degree that didn't do much for them. I have an uncle who went to college, worked in the corporate world for a long time. Now he runs a very successful landscaping business. He could have skipped all that debt, all the corporate world, started a landscaping business, and been way ahead. Did it help him get where he is now? Sure. Could he have done it without it? He's a driven guy. He's smart. I think he could have done it without all that stuff. Anyway, apprenticeship, learn a marketable skill. Then, once you're good, really good, business model. So you've been a baker, you've worked at a bakery for years, you are awesome at baking now, you know you can do it from scratch, you can open up a bakery, and boom, there's your business model now. You're going to open the bakery, you're going to be open these days, you're going to market it with this method, and now people are going to be buying your donuts left and right. Lord knows I'm going to be there buying your donuts because you know I love donuts. And now you're making money. Business model. For me, my apprenticeship was learning to make videos as a hobby, then making videos for money. So I spent a ton of time making videos as a hobby, then I picked up video clients who paid me to make their videos. I was good at making videos because I had the hobby of making videos and I learned how to do it for fun. Then I started getting paid to do it. Then I really launched a couple business models from that. I did YouTube, I did a podcast, I made other people's videos. So I had a couple different business models going. And that is where I am still. My 3 steps to building wealth, it's John's 3 steps, but where I'm in those 3 steps, I'm done with my apprenticeship. I'm good at making videos, at least 72,000 subscribers think I'm good at making videos, and all my clients. So now I've got my business model, which is make videos for other people, charge them for that, make videos that I can sell advertising space on YouTube. They're entertaining, you watch them, the ads play, inspire people with my content that, get them to, so they care about it, so that they'll help support it through my membership thing. So I have a couple different business models. I have not got to investment income yet. And this question was about 401ks and retirement. John Puglano, Investable Wealth, guy who handles portfolios. I mean, this guy gets, to be a client of his, you need to be able to invest $250,000. So he's handling portfolios of people who have that much money to invest, not that much assets, but that much money to work with. And John manages that much money for them. So this guy knows how to make money through investments. He warns people, you are not an investor if you have $1,000 to invest. You are not an investor if you have $10,000 to invest. You would never ask, this is John's illustration, you'd never ask somebody, hey, where can I buy a really good BMW for $1,000? You don't get a good BMW for $1,000. You could get an old wrecked BMW and fix it up, but you can't get a good BMW for $1,000. That doesn't exist. Hey, where do I get a good investment for $1,000? You don't. There's no good investment for $1,000. You have an app that invests the 75 cents left over when you paid $1.25 for your coffee. How much are you going to make off that 75 cents? A great investment portfolio would make 10%. You're making 7 cents off that 75 cents. You're not an investor. You're not. You're more at risk to lose the little bit of emergency funds you have. That's not an investment fund. If you have $5,000 portfolio of investments, that should just be liquid cash in your bank for rainy days for a 6-month period. Because here's what happens. There's a recession. When do people get laid off? Oh man, there's a recession. Oh no, we're not making enough money. We got to lay a bunch of people off. That recession also affects your stock portfolio. So at the same time, if you have $5,000 and that's all you have for emergency money and it's tied up in investments, like the stock market, you have a portfolio of stocks, and that tanks because of, oh no, we heard we got a recession. Boom, your $5,000 just halved, became $2,500, and at the same time, you just lost your job. There's like naughty word sayings you could use to describe this situation. You're in a bad situation. You're in trouble. How's that? So you're much better off. Just have your emergency fund 6 months out. For some of you, that'll be $30,000. For some of you, that'll be $10,000. That might be different for all of us, depending on what our expenses are. But that's not investment money. That's your emergency fund for when times get tough, and it should be liquid cash that you can get your hands on today because you got fired today. And now you need that money to live off of for the next 6 months. You're an investor when you're past that and you have lots of money and you've learned how to make that money. You've learned how money works, how business works, and now you understand concepts that will allow you to be a smart investor. When you learn how value is created and monetized, you then can look at other businesses, recognize value, not just a bubble or a trend, invest in the value and grow your investment portfolio. And when you have $100,000 of investable wealth and you make 10% off that, now you have $110,000. And when you make 10% off that, it's not 120, there's compounding. It compounds. So now you have, well, I'm not good at math, but you have more than $120,000. So to come back to your question, which as usual I have like on E. Rankin wanted to know, what do I do about retirement, homesteaders? Right now, E. Rankin, I am in the middle zone, business model. I am learning how money works, how value works. I am getting better at it. I took a big pay cut leaving my client work behind to do just YouTube, but you can't have everything, you can have anything. I wanted this life. I wanted to do this with my family while my kids were young. So right now, I don't have investment. I don't have investment wealth. I've built up that emergency fund reserve that we talk about, that 6-month emergency reserve. I've built that up for my family, but I don't have $100,000 to actually do something with. So right now I'm just building my cash reserves. I do dabble in a few other things, which I won't tell you what to do because I'm not that good at it. What I will tell you is what my plans are when I actually have some money to start putting aside, which my hope is probably by about next year with the way my current business is trending. I'd like to start building a Roth IRA. A Roth IRA, you pay your taxes in the beginning for a Roth IRA, not when you take your money out. A regular IRA, it's an independent retirement fund, an IRA, an independent retirement account. When you put your money in a regular IRA, you don't pay the taxes on it, but that, $10,000 a year, or $6,000 a year you put into it, whatever it is, over time, compounding interest grows and grows and grows. And now when you're 60 and you take that IRA money back, you haven't paid taxes on it. Up front, there are way more taxes on it when you take it back and it's grown beyond the money you put in. So Roth IRA, you pay your taxes on the money you put in, not on the money you take out. And while it's a bummer to pay taxes now, it's a much bigger bummer to pay way more taxes than you ever would have later. So that's one of my plans, Roth IRA account. That's, if you're looking for a way to build. But again, I would suggest before you worry about that, focus on the first two parts, the apprenticeship, the business model. And if you're like, hey, I have a job, I'm really happy with it, well, that's your business model. Your apprenticeship was learning the skill that got you that really good job that you like. And now your business model is, how do I make the most money and the best lifestyle with these skills, these professional skills I've developed? Business model doesn't mean you have to have your own business. You can be an employee and still have gone through apprenticeship and business model. Remember, even if you're an employee, you're still running your own business. You're minding your own business. That's a principle I learned from the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. Minding your business means like focusing on your income and your wealth and how you're building your business. And even if you have a job, you still need to make sure that when times get tough and a recession happens or whatever it is, you're not the guy they let go. You're the guy that they'll offer more to stay because you get a better offer somewhere else. All right. I have no idea. I always have the goal of making these Q&A shorter, but I think they're getting longer. I'm bad at brevity. But if you like this nonetheless, you can support this show. $5 a month, becoming a Homesteading pioneer. That's my business model for this show. The way I knew this show could be profitable, the way I knew this show could keep going, is if people enjoyed it and cared about it and said, you know what, each episode I watch every day of the week, it's worth a quarter. That's what it amounts to. If you'd flip me a quarter right now for this video and say, hey man, well done, here's a quarter. If I was on the side of the road and you toss a quarter into my little tip jar, well, that's what the Homesteading Pioneer program is. But it's also a value for value transaction. There are discounts to Homesteading Pioneers. If you're gonna buy trees for an orchard, you get 10% off those trees with Northeast Edible. Want to build John Siskovich chicken tractors? His books, 10% off. There's a whole lot of other discounts in there for stuff you might already be buying, including like Leatherman knives. So, you know, there's value there. There's bonus content, classes taught by other people with more experience than me. There's a really good in-depth interview with John Puglano about building wealth. So if that interests you, you can listen to that in the podcast section of the Pioneers Only library. Or of course you can shop through Amazon, typing in homesteady.com first, or clicking on the link below, or the one you see pop out at the end of our videos. That helps us run this business and hopefully eventually build some investment income so that I can help my kids out when they're, you know, looking to start their first farm. More than likely looking to buy a house away from the farm where they don't have to farm anymore, because kids raised on a farm never seem to want to farm until like a couple years go by. Then they realize it was good for them. All right, see you next week when my mustache will be thicker and I will be talking too much as usual.